Hello and welcome to the last in this short series of video tutorials looking at your oral in English language and literature, but fundamentally our focus has been, in terms of criteria at least, on language and literature. So this is just a very short what to avoid, what not to do, if you like, if you have the presence of mind to remember all of this. So I'm going to start with the really obvious stuff. Obviously, thinking about criteria D, language, make sure that your language stays formal and appropriate. If you make a mistake, if you start to panic, we don't want to break down or to swear or to kind of fall apart. So we keep that language formal at all times. We don't drop our register when we move into our follow-up questions. Make sure that you analyze. So often, unfortunately, we come across orals where a student is rereading or is narrating, telling the story rather than analyzing the extract that they are examining. We don't want to tell the story. You can assume that your teacher, your examiner, understands and knows the story. What you need to do is analyze the language in front of you. Don't talk too fast, don't talk too slow. Try to keep the pace steady and make sure that you remember that somebody is listening to this exam, and therefore the speed at which you speak is important. Sometimes we have extraordinarily gifted students who have so much to say that they absolutely speed through it. Now, that does not help the person listening, and unfortunately some of your wonderful ideas will be lost. So don't rush. Try not to regurgitate or state too much of what's already been said. We want to hear your ideas. We don't want to hear what it says, on page 2 of Spark Notes for your chosen novel. So make sure that you are using ideas that are your own. And that brings me on to, number 5 of don't do's. Don't use language that you don't understand or that you don't feel comfortable pronouncing. Make sure that the terms that you use are terms that you understand. Make sure that the language you use is language that you can use comfortably and freely. Ultimately, it's much better to use perhaps slightly simpler language and demonstrate knowledge than to try to impress using language that you can't pronounce or you don't understand. Don't reread your bullet points, therefore employ the shorthand, the notation that I expressed in the previous little installment. Don't fall into the trap, which unfortunately happens rather a lot, of talking about you too much. We want to know why your global issue is relevant to you locally, nationally, transnationally. But unfortunately, sometimes we hear teachers who invite you to develop a conversation about your own experience too much. How does this make you feel? How is this relevant to your life? Well, unfortunately, these questions don't help you hit your criteria. You can have a personal engagement, you can evaluate, but you don't want to fall into connecting the text to your personal experience. It doesn't matter to me that, the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet is very impactful for you because it reminds me of your recent breakup. That doesn't matter to me, and it won't help you hit the criteria. What's more important is, the way in which Shakespeare uses figurative language in that final scene to connect and to impart that feeling of tragedy. So avoid diving too deeply into your personal experience. Try, and this is a hard one, it's a very hard one actually, but try to avoid rewalking paths that are too well trodden, by which I mean, if you're dealing with The Handmaid's Tale, is it possible that you can avoid talking about patriarchy? Or if you are going to talk about patriarchy, don't just talk in generic terms, as I said, about oppression of women or, misogyny, but move on to something more specific, the way in which the role of mother is used to ensure female, submission, or to limit the experience of women. Try to get a bit more specific, try to shed a slightly different light, move the angle just slightly. I have heard so many orals talking about racism and sexism, and it doesn't mean that that's not interesting and relevant, but try to come at it in a slightly new way. That's hard, I know. Don't make mistakes about the very basics of your text. You mustn't go into that oral not knowing. You have to have read the whole work. You have to know what it's about, okay? You need to avoid making, very simple errors that demonstrate that you don't have basic knowledge criteria A, okay? So, if you're approaching a text that you didn't like any of the texts that you did for English, and there's one that you liked or didn't like quite a little bit less than the others that you hated, and hopefully that's not the case, but because of that you didn't read them all, make sure that you go back and you read that text and you know that text before your oral, okay? You need to know the work. It will become unfortunately painfully obvious to your teacher and to the examiner who's moderating that oral if you lack basic knowledge about your text. So I think that's it. Don't swear, pretty obvious. Don't read, analyze, don't narrate, don't go too fast, don't go too slow, don't say things that are out there that we can all read, i.e. regurgitate. Don't use language you can't understand. Don't reread your bullet points. Don't talk too much about you. Don't rehash topics that have been covered and covered and covered. And don't make mistakes about the basics of your text. Do take this time and this moment to engage, enjoy, explore a text and the way that it relates to the world around you and to your understanding of human experience. Do feel free to guide the teacher in the follow-up session and shift that focus to things that you enjoy. Do prepare, do use your bullet points, do try to have confidence, and do remember that this is, a positive marking experience, i.e. We are here and your teacher is there to award marks, not to take them away. So we're looking to award marks all the time. We're not looking to penalize. And do enjoy it if at all possible. And I know that sounds like a terribly teachery thing, but it is an opportunity for you to focus on an area of academic investigation through your global issue that you find particularly interesting. It is an opportunity for you to combine texts that you think are interesting together. And it's an opportunity for you to express your opinion, which is always going to be supported with well-chosen analytical evidence. So I wish you all the very best of luck, and I hope that these little sessions have been helpful. And I look forward to hearing your orals in the future. Bye for now.